Hi guys, I'm back again with the third part of the video series on how to play D&D and how to lead Dungeons & Dragons, the game. So if you haven't seen the first two videos yet, you need to, because I will be referencing the character sheets and the settings in this video. So if you have not watched the videos about settings or creating a character yet, make sure you go and do that first. Okay, so today we are going to learn how to actually play the game. You might have your setting and your characters already set, and maybe you've already done some stuff with it, like run some little adventures where you just kind of use your imagination to see what those characters would do. Maybe you haven't. No problem either way. We're going to give you some rules to use that can kind of help you with that process. And so first things first is you are going to need dice. The form of Dungeons & Dragons that I'm teaching you guys how to play uses what is called a D6 or a six-sided dice. And so that's like your mine are kind of fun colors, but that's like your regular dice that you can find in any sort of usual board game or something like that. If you have other dice sizes, like if you have parents or people who you're staying with right now that play, maybe you have the 20-sided dice that the Dungeons & Dragons stuff usually uses. You can choose to use those instead, but the math is going to be a little different. If you want to use those dice and stuff, part of this video, the last part, might not be as helpful for you as it would be for those who are using the six-sided ones. In the game, what happens is you have your character that you are playing as, right? I made my cat Crouton. He is a thief who has, whatever his stats are and whatnot. And if I was leading the game for him, what would happen is I would set up a situation. So I would choose a setting, right? And, just for simplicity's sake right now, maybe the setting I'm choosing is my own apartment, right? Because that's where he lives. That makes sense for him to be there. That's where we're playing the game. So he's in my apartment. What are we doing, right? If we give him a goal, again, another part of creating the setting, watch the first video if that's a little fuzzy. The goal of his is to get cat treats because he loves them. Who's already there? Let's say that nobody's there. Okay, so now we have everything that we've created up until now. We have a setting, my apartment, who's there already? Nobody, except for Crouton. And what's his goal? Getting some cat treats. Okay. So he is a small little kitten, and he's probably going to encounter some things along the way that will make that hard for him to do, right? Because he can't just walk right up to the cat treats and be like, cool, I did it, right? That's not a fun game. Nothing happened. So we're going to try to come up with some interesting challenges along his way. And so that's what today's video is about, is how to create a challenge for a character, okay? When you make a challenge, right, you put some sort of obstacle in the way, right? So whether that is, using my example of Crouton from before, maybe it's the treats are really high up and he can't reach them, okay, which is the actual situation. I keep them on a high shelf. So how is he going to get them? Okay, and so this is where you need either two people, or at least you need to play with two kind of mindsets, okay? So you have the person who's running the game, and you have your player, okay? If you're playing both, all these things still apply. It's just a conversation you have with yourself instead of somebody else. And I'll give a little bit more of an example of how that might go. Okay, so the player, whoever's playing Crouton, has to decide how they are going to approach this challenge, okay? So I'm going to say he's going to try to climb something up high. Okay, he's going to climb up high. And then what I do is I look at the character sheet, right? You have your 6 stats, you have your strength, you have your dexterity, your constitution, your intelligence, your wisdom, and your charisma, okay? In that order. And so what do I think would be the most helpful thing for climbing? Okay, climbing sounds like something you should be pretty strong to do. I'm going to say strength, okay? And then, so I, as the player, would look at my character sheet, see the number that it says next to strength, which should be a plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, okay? And I would take that number, and I would roll my six-sided dice 2 times. I happen to have 2 of them right here that match, so I'm just going to roll each of them once. But if you only have 1, you can roll it twice, okay? You add up all of those numbers together. I'll make an example right now. So I'm going to take my dice, I'm going to roll them right here. I got a 4 and a 5, okay? And his strength is +4. So 4 plus 5 is 9, plus another 4 is 13. Okay, that's his total number. Okay, so that's what you do as a player. Okay, you hear what the challenge is, you decide what you're going to do to approach it, and you make a roll based off of whatever stat makes sense to add. Okay. On the person who's running the game side, so again, that's the dungeon master or game master or whatever you want to call them. They have to decide how hard of a challenge this is. Okay, so if I was running this, I would say, there's not necessarily, because I know my own apartment, there's not really anything for him to climb next to it. So I would say it is going to be hard. Okay, I have some numbers that I'll throw out there in a second, but usually the way I decide is if I want it to be easy, medium, or hard. If it is 7 or below, that is what I would call an easy challenge. Okay? If it is 10, if it's higher than 7 and 10 or 7 to 10, that is going to be a medium challenge. If it is 11 to 13, that's a hard challenge. Okay? Anything above 13, I consider to be usually either, you can say harder or almost impossible, honestly. It's really hard to get that high of numbers, unless it's something that your character is really, really good at. But yeah, so I would say it's a hard challenge to climb up to the cat trees, right? And so then I would set my number at 13. If the player rolls 13 total or above, they succeed, okay? In this case, Crouton got 13, so he has a happy ending. He would get to climb up to the treats and get them and succeed, okay? Then you just if the player achieves their goal, right, you set a new challenge, you try it again. If the player does not succeed, okay, so say I rolled 8 total or something, right, for Crouton, he would not be able to climb up there. Okay, you have a couple choices. 1, maybe the player can try something new, okay? Or 2, maybe there's a bad consequence for, not making it, right? Some situations have them, some don't. Right now, he just tried to climb, didn't work, no big deal, okay? But if the situation was something like he encounters, I don't know, some sort of, maybe he's in a different setting, maybe he's in a fantasy setting and whatever, maybe if there's a monster coming his way and he does not succeed at, I don't know, hiding from it, maybe he gets eaten by a monster. That would be really sad, okay? And that's kind of an extreme example, but you get the idea. If, some situations have things that are bad that happen if you fail, some don't, right? And that's, you just play it by ear. You get to choose as the person running the game, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it. You have, just to go over those 3 things again, use 6-sided dice, 2 of them if you have them. If you only have 1, you can roll it twice and add it up. That works totally fine. Okay. And then there is setting challenges. Okay. Setting a challenge is using your imagination to think what in the environment might get in the way of the character trying to reach their goal. Okay. Then the player responds to that. Okay, and they say what they are going to do and how they are going to do it. The person running the game then decides how hard it's going to be. Okay, 7 or below is easy. 8 to 10 is medium. 11 to 13 is hard. 14 and up is almost impossible. Okay, so you set that based on that. If they succeed, great, they get what they wanted to do done. If they don't, they don't. Sometimes there's a bad thing that happens. Yeah, that's all for this week. Next week, I will be making a video about optional things to add to your game. If you're comfortable running challenges for your players or as a player, and you're comfortable using the dice and the character sheet, then next week will be ways to make the game more complicated and closer to what we were running in the classroom. All right, yeah, see you guys then.